The footage is still fresh. Caitlin Clark walking off the court, head held high, after getting ejected from a game for what can only be described as existing in a league that refuses to protect its stars. The whistles, the crowd's confusion, the stunned commentators, it's all there. And then, chaos. Pure, unfiltered, viral chaos. Because within minutes, teammates Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull lit the match. They didn't stay quiet. They didn't fall back on PR speak or vague, "we support her" statements. No, they exploded. Loud, clear, and absolutely unapologetic. This wasn't just about one call. This was about all of it. The weeks of uncalled fouls, the bad. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. The clear targeting of Caitlin Clark by players who seem more interested in teaching her a lesson than playing the game. And now, it's a full-blown WNBA crisis. Let's not sugarcoat it. Caitlin Clark is a reason millions of people are watching women's basketball right now. Her impact has been seismic. Ticket sales through the roof. National broadcasts seeing their best ratings ever. Jerseys flying off the shelves. She brought everybody, from die-hard hoop heads to curious first-timers, to the WNBA. And yet, somehow, the league has managed to treat her like a problem to contain, rather than a force to support. Now, after her ejection, the question is no longer, can the WNBA rise with Caitlin Clark? It's, can the WNBA survive if she walks? Because the players know the stakes. The fans definitely know. And the anger is mounting. Sophie Cunningham's response was instant. No filters, no hesitation. After the game, she stormed through the tunnel, reportedly yelling at league staff, calling the officiating a disgrace, and demanding answers about the targeting Clark continues to face. She later posted a short video to her social accounts, visibly furious, calling the call trash and saying, "This isn't about Caitlin just being a star. It's about respecting the game. She's a player like the rest of us. Protect your players or lose your league." Lexie Hull backed her up fast. Within the hour, she posted a lengthy message, dragging the WNBA for fostering what she called a culture of silence and retaliation. She accused the league of ignoring months of escalating hostility against Clark and called ejection a symbol of leadership failure at every level. It wasn't just a rant. It was a declaration. Suddenly, the game wasn't the story. The ejection was. The league's leadership was silent, but everyone else was screaming. Commentators, analysts, fans, former players. Every single voice had the same question. What are we doing here? Because if the WNBA truly wants to be taken seriously, it can't keep treating its best players like they're disposable. Caitlin Clark isn't just a talented rookie. She's the heartbeat of the league's momentum. And yet for weeks, she's been getting elbowed, shoved, cheap shot, and now ejected? For reacting to the pressure she's been under since Game 1? Make it make sense. It's not just that she was tossed. It's why she was tossed. A moment of visible frustration, a little verbal pushback, and boom, whistle, ejection. Meanwhile, players throwing elbows at her? No calls. Players baiting her with hard fouls? Silence. The inconsistency isn't just bad, it's dangerous. And that's where Cunningham and Hull's anger comes from. Because they see what fans are now seeing more clearly than ever. A league try to control Caitlin Clark rather than support her. And in doing so, they're creating an environment where speaking out is punished, where aggression is ignored, and where talent isn't enough. Compliance is a currency. But here's the kicker. Clark hasn't complained. She's played hard. She's shown up. She's taken hits, literally and figuratively. And she's remained professional. Her ejection wasn't about a meltdown. It was about accumulation. The build-up, the emotional toll of being told, day after day, take it. Don't fight back. Don't speak up. And when she finally did, when she dared look a ref in the eye and push back just a little, they made an example of her. So now, the league has a problem. Because when players like Cunningham and Hull speak out, it's not just frustration, it's a warning. They're saying, we're not going to let you bury her. We're not going to let the brightest light in this league be dimmed because it's inconvenient to deal with the attention she brings. And make no mistake, Clark's attention is complicated for the league. She's a white, Midwestern, college basketball-built phenomenon dropped into a league where legacy players have fought tooth and nail for decades without a fraction of the spotlight. There's tension, there's history, there's nuance, but none of that justifies what she's endured on the court. There's a difference between hazing and harassment, between competitiveness and cruelty, between initiation and isolation. And what Cunningham and Hull are really saying is, we've crossed a line. You know things are bad when fans are openly posting messages begging Caitlin Clark to leave the WNBA altogether. Socials are flooded with clips of the ejection, emotional breakdowns from young girls watching their idol get treated like an outsider, and long threads of fans saying she deserves better. Many have even suggested she explore opportunities overseas or look toward media and endorsement deals, anything that doesn't involve being targeted for simply being who she is. That's how deep this is cut. And here's what's truly terrifying for the league. They don't have a backup plan. There's no next Clark waiting in the wings. No second superstar guaranteed to replicate her cultural crossover appeal. If she leaves, or if she simply loses interest, it's not just a loss of talent. It's a loss of momentum, of viewership, of credibility. So what now? Well, now we wait. We wait to see if the WNBA issues a statement. We wait to see if they acknowledge the growing unrest, if they back their officials or take responsibility. We wait to see if they find Sophie and Lexie for speaking out, which, if they do, will only further ignite the fire. And most importantly, we wait to see how Caitlin Clark responds. Because that response, it could reshape the future of the league. If Clark decides to stay quiet, take the high road, and continue playing through the chaos, the league may think they've survived the moment. But if she pushes back, really pushes back, publicly or privately, it could be the start of a full-blown reckoning. The power dynamic is shifting. And for once, the players might be in the driver's seat. Because this isn't about one bad call anymore. It's about a league that says it wants to grow, but punishes the very stars making that growth possible. It's about teammates refusing to stay silent while their friend is thrown under the bus. It's about fans who showed up to support something new, something exciting, and are now wondering if they made a mistake. And if the WNBA doesn't act fast, they may lose more than just Clark. They may lose the trust they've spent years trying to build. So here we are, a potential turning point in women's basketball, a moment that could either redefine the league or unravel it. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull didn't plan to become revolutionaries, but the league left them no choice, and the clock is ticking. Caitlin Clark hasn't said much publicly since the ejection, but she doesn't need to. Her silence speaks volumes. Her teammates have already said what she likely wishes she could. Enough is enough. Because at this point, it's not just about how she plays. It's about how she's treated. And everyone's watching. Clark came into the WNBA not just as a rookie, but as a movement. She didn't walk in the door. She kicked it off its hinges. She brought a new kind of attention to women's basketball. Not just a niche loyal fan base, but the mainstream audience the league has chased for years. Corporate sponsors, national media, first-time viewers, all drawn by her skill, her style, her presence. She made the league louder. But with that volume came scrutiny. And now, instead of being embraced, she's being picked apart, both by opposing players on the court and by the system that was supposed to elevate her. Let's talk about the system. Because this isn't just about Caitlin Clark's ejection. This is about the WNBA's long-standing struggle with identity. For years, it has been stuck in a tension between preserving tradition and welcoming evolution, between honoring legacy and making space for new blood. And Clark? She's a full-on disruption. And disruptive forces, by their nature, unsettle the status quo. Her rise has exposed a bitter undercurrent in the league. Resentment from some veterans who feel like they've been overlooked for years, discomfort from league leadership afraid of coddling a star, and growing frustration from fans who see Clark getting targeted game after game with little to no accountability. Cunningham and Hull have seen it up close. And when they spoke out, they didn't just do it to defend a teammate. They did it to defend the game itself. Their message was clear. This isn't how we grow the league. You don't build a sport by tearing down the people who carry it forward. You don't attract new fans by punishing the players they came to see. You protect them. You back them. But right now, the WNBA is failing to protect the very people making it relevant. It's why so many fans are furious. They didn't just show up for Caitlin Clark. They showed up for the future, for the version of women's basketball that is unapologetically fast, loud, and full of fire. But instead, they're watching that future get dragged through technicals, hard fouls, cold shoulders, and now an ejection. They're watching a league fumble its biggest opportunity in years. It's not just heartbreaking, it's infuriating. And you can feel that energy online and in the arenas. The crowd's frustration isn't just about the officials. It's about the pattern. One call might be forgivable. Two might be questionable. But a season full of bruises, no calls, and silence, that's a statement. That's saying, we don't care how much you've done for us. We'll take your success, but we won't defend your place. And if Clark walks away, whether that means overseas play, stepping back for endorsements, or even shifting into media, that won't be on her. That'll be on them, on the leadership, on the referees, on every person who stood by while she was taken down piece by piece. What Cunningham and Hull are doing now is trying to stop that outcome before it happens. They're throwing up the alarm signals that the league itself should have sounded weeks ago. They're saying, if we don't change now, we might lose her. Not just Caitlin Clark the player, but Caitlin Clark the moment, the movement, the window of cultural relevance that doesn't open often in women's sports. Because here's the hard truth. The WNBA needs her more than she needs them. Clark doesn't just bring talent. She brings audience. She brings sponsors. She brings attention that can't be bought. And if the league squanders it by continuing to let her be the punching bag of the season, the consequences will ripple far beyond one player's career. Other rising stars will take note. Fans who just arrived will tune out. Brands that finally saw value in investing will back away. And the story will no longer be Caitlin Clark changed the WNBA. It'll be the WNBA couldn't handle Caitlin Clark. That is the reputation they're toying with. That's why Cunningham and Hull's words matter so much. They're not just defending a teammate. They're defending a vision of the league that actually survives. And there's another layer to this solidarity. Because in this league, speaking out doesn't come easy. The WNBA is small. It's tight-knit. Reputation travels fast. Criticize the league or the refs, and you might find yourself on the wrong side of a power structure that doesn't take kindly to dissent, which makes Sophie and Lexie's advocacy all the more significant. They're risking fines. They're risking backlash. They're risking being labeled as problematic or emotional or whatever coded term is popular this week. And they're doing it anyway. Because when a star like Clark is targeted and no one says anything, the silence becomes complicity. It's not enough to cheer for her from the sidelines. It's not enough to post vague support. What Hull and Cunningham are doing is naming the problem, loudly, and in a league that has often demanded quiet compliance. That's revolutionary. Whether or not the WNBA hears them is another story, because so far, there's been no formal acknowledgement of the officiating problems, no public review of the ejection, no meaningful gesture to say, we hear you, we're working on it, just more silence. And that silence, it's louder than anything else right now. It echoes every time a ref lets a hard foul go, every time a player takes a jab at Clark on social media without consequence, every time a fan sees their favorite player thrown out for standing up for herself. It says, we're not ready to change. But the problem is, change is already happening. It's happening in real time through viral videos, press clips, TikToks, and threads. Through Sophie Cunningham in post-game interviews, through Lexie Hull on her story, through every fan who records a moment and calls out the inconsistency. The WNBA doesn't control the narrative anymore. Not completely. Not like it used to. And maybe that's a good thing. Because if this league wants to grow, really grow, it needs to evolve past the idea that criticism is betrayal. That star should be grateful. That toughness means staying silent. And that players like Caitlin Clark are too much when they're exactly what the league asked for. They wanted stars. She gave them one. They wanted attention. She brought millions. They wanted a future. She became it. And now they have a choice. protect that future, or lose it. Caitlin Clark won't say it outright. She doesn't have to. Her game says it all. Her presence says it all. And the people around her, they're saying the rest. Sophie Cunningham, Lexie Hull, the fans, the noise, the outrage. They're not just reacting to one moment. They're fighting for something bigger. A version of women's basketball where talent is valued, not penalized. Where stars are supported, not sidelined. Where players are heard, not hushed. The WNBA is at a crossroads. One path leads to evolution. The other leads to erasure. Caitlin Clark's ejection wasn't just a call, it was a wake-up. Now the league has to decide if it's actually listening. The thing about moments like this, these boiling points that seem to erupt out of nowhere, is that they don't actually come out of nowhere. They build slowly, quietly, over time, behind the scenes, in locker rooms, in film sessions, in bruises that don't show up on stat sheets, in exhausted expressions of players who keep getting asked to just focus on the game, even when the game is being taken away from them one foul, one silence, one ejection at a time. Caitlin Clark's ejection wasn't just a mistake. It was a manifestation, a very public unraveling of everything that's been going wrong with the way the WNBA has handled her presence, her fame, her impact, her style play, her disruption of the pecking order. And now, the entire ecosystem surrounding her is responding. You can't punish the most watched player in your league for being visible and expect the public not to notice. You can't allow the constant narrative of she's too cocky, or she needs to be humbled, or she has to earn her stripes to fester, and then act surprised when that narrative turns into bad blood on the court. The WNBA let this pressure build. It let the targeting become normalized. It let the resentment linger. Now it's all collapsing in real time. And the thing is, Caitlin Clark has never once claimed to be above the league. She hasn't thrown tantrums. She hasn't demanded special treatment. In fact, she's been silent in ways that many other stars wouldn't be. She's taken the hits. She's tried to lead by example. She's played through pain, through scrutiny, through a media circus. She's done everything right. And still, it wasn't enough. What does that tell every other young star watching? What does that say to the next rookie who shows up with a big name, a sharp game, and a ton of pressure? That the second you step outside the established mold, you become a target? That any sign of confidence will be spun as arrogance, and any reaction to mistreatment will be reframed as attitude? That's the real danger here. Not just for Caitlin Clark, but for the culture of the league itself. Because when the biggest star can't even exist without being dragged, ejected, and dissected, what hope does anyone else have? That's what Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull were reacting to. Yes, they were furious about the ejection, but what they were really furious about was the message it sent. That protecting your teammate could cost you your reputation. That backing someone up, someone who's visibly being mishandled, might put a target on your back too. That being loud is riskier than being silent, even when silence is proven useless. Their anger wasn't performative. It was protective, urgent, real, and the league would be foolish not to take it seriously. This isn't a one-player issue. It's not even a one-team issue. This is systemic. This is cultural. This is what happens when a league desperately wants to grow, but doesn't yet know how to handle the reality of actually growing. You don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to plaster Caitlin Clark's face on billboards and social media campaigns, then sit on your hands when she's being physically and verbally targeted. You don't get to profit off her name while staying silent, as she's being treated like an invader. And make no mistake, that's how it feels. Like she's not being embraced as part of the WNBA family, but instead treated like an outsider, a threat, not just by opponents, but by the very system meant to support her. Which brings us to this moment. A star at crossroads, her teammates taking the heat, the league under a microscope, and fans growing louder by the hour. The tension is unsustainable. Something has to give. The league has a few options. It could continue to double down on silence, hope the news cycle moves on, that Clark says nothing publicly, that Cunningham and Hull cool off, and that everyone eventually returns to business as usual. That's the most comfortable path, but also the most dangerous, because things won't go back to normal. This incident has already changed the way people view the league. The fans who came because of Clark, they're watching closely. Many are new to the WNBA, enthusiastic but unfamiliar. They don't have a decade of loyalty to cushion this moment. They showed up for her. And if they feel like she's being disrespected, they won't stick around. And it's not just the fans. Sponsors are watching too. Broadcasters, media outlets, other athletes, future rookies. Everyone is now using this moment as a measuring stick for how the WNBA handles its business when things get messy. Do they protect their players? Do they listen to criticism? Do they evolve? Or do they retreat into the old ways of take the hit, smile for the camera, say nothing controversial? Caitlin Clark's future in the WNBA hinges on what happens next, but so does the league's. Because here's what the league still doesn't seem to fully understand. She has options. If Clark decided tomorrow that she wanted to play overseas, she'd be offered a max contract and then some. If she walked into a media studio, she could sign a multi-million-dollar deal to talk basketball instead of play it. If she wanted to pivot into branding full-time, she had companies lining up. She doesn't need the WNBA. She chose it, and the league has done very little to show her they understand the value of that choice. So here's where we are. A generational talent is being disrespected. Her teammates are risking their own reputations to speak the truth, and the league sits paralyzed, either too afraid or too stubborn to course correct. And maybe this is the moment it all boils over. Maybe this is the moment players stop waiting for the league to protect them and start protecting each other. Maybe this is where the fan base hardens, becomes louder, more demanding, less forgiving. Maybe this is where Clark herself draws a line and says, no more. Or maybe, hopefully, this is the moment the league wakes up. Because if it doesn't, the WNBA won't just lose Caitlin Clark. It will lose what she represents. Momentum, visibility, relevance, the future. You can't silence someone who speaks through her game, but you can make her feel like her voice doesn't matter. You can make her feel isolated, undervalued. You can push her until she realizes there's nothing left worth fighting for. And if that happens, well, we'll look back on this ejection not as the moment the refs lost control of the game, but as a moment the WNBA lost control of its legacy. And all because it couldn't figure out how to protect the star it said it wanted.